Today, we are here with Courtney Johnson, and we were actually just talking right before we hit record about how we found each other. We have become Instagram friends, and I think Courtney maybe found me or I found Courtney, but it's been so fun to watch her story just unfold right in front of my eyes on Instagram. And so I'm so excited for her to come and share her story of fertility and adoption with you guys because she has a really good one to share. So, Courtney, thank you so much for being here, and let's jump right into it. When did you know you wanted to adopt? When did that come, like, that thought even enter your mind?
Yeah, thanks for having me, by the way. This
No.
is really fun. I've never been on a podcast before, so this is a little bit nerve-wracking and exciting, and I hope I can tell my story well and hopefully speak to some of your listeners. So I actually remember wanting to adopt ever since I was a little girl. I have family and friends who have adopted and have really good experiences with adoption, and it's always been on my heart. I used to do some volunteer work with foster kids, and it's just always been something I've wanted. And then I met my husband in 2019. We were actors in Beauty and the Beast in our local night show here, and we were waltzing partners, and that's how we became friends. And shortly after we became friends, we started talking about dating and getting married, and all those wonderful things. And adoption was something we always considered from the beginning. We thought maybe we would have one or two of our own, in quotes.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was something that from even before we were married, we talked about.
That's so interesting. So, did you bring it up and he was just like fully on board, like, yes, I would love to adopt, or did he like have those thoughts himself? Because it looks like you kind of had it honest, like you were around it for a long time. So, was it like you brought it up and Marcus was like, yeah, that's cool with me, or was he like, oh, that's crazy, I want to adopt too?
Yeah, I don't even remember who brought it
Yeah.
up first, but I know that it was part of the conversation from the beginning. He also has adopted family members, so it was never off the table. It was always an option for us.
Yeah, that is so cool. What a neat, like, I feel like I've been using the word serendipitous way too much lately, like almost to be funny, but how serendipitous that you guys met and both had like an attachment to the adoption world in that way. That's really neat. So you met in 2019 and then you guys got married. So you had already talked about adoption. You knew that was going to play part somewhere, but what about your fertility journey? Like where after getting married did you guys decide to adopt versus try to get pregnant and what did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't start actively trying to get pregnant right away. We gave it a little bit of time, as a lot of people do. And looking back, we regret that a little bit because we didn't know how hard it was going to be to get pregnant. You never expect that to be your story. But there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's and all the lines are kind of blurred right now. I don't even remember,
Yeah.
dates and things like
Oh,
that.
that's
But
okay.
we started trying. Yeah, no, and we started trying, and it wasn't happening. We thought, we Googled it, as people do, uh,
Yes.
and it said it could take up to a year. And we didn't want it to take up to a year, but month after month would go by, and it wasn't happening. And we tried all of the things like those little test strips that you get, and you make sure you're ovulating when you're trying, and all these things that you can do that they say, oh yeah, just time it out. Your timing's off. And after a while, it felt like our timing was really good. We should be getting pregnant based on all these things we're doing. So to be told that timing was our issue wasn't really the answer for us that we were looking for. And so after a while, again, maybe about 8 months or so, I through my local chiropractor, I took a Dutch test. It's just
Hmm.
like a full panel of hormones and things because I thought, maybe something's off there. And it turned out through taking that test that I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which I'm sure a lot of your followers have a similar diagnosis. Which just means that my hormones are all imbalanced in various ways, and I don't have cysts. I don't have that variation of it, but I do have all the other telltale symptoms of PCOS. Yeah, and so that it was hard to hear, but it gave us answers, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And answers is like the biggest piece of the puzzle because when you have answers, then you come at it a totally different way. Because like you're saying, you were told it's a timing issue, and you're like, I don't think so because we've got timing down. It has to be something else, and sometimes it takes testing and
Mhm.
just that like bright, bold, black and white answer in your face, and then you can kind of come at it from a totally different angle. So how long would you say you guys tried? And did you even through this adoption process, did you ever really quit trying or did you just say like, okay, well let's go ahead and start the process for adoption too and while we keep trying or did you kind of stop and start? What did that look like?
Absolutely. Um, so I found out that I had PCOS. I all the months are blurry, so I don't remember, how long it
Ballparks are
was here
good.
and there, but within the span of a couple of years. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got my PCOS diagnosis and then I started doing all the right things. I started strength training. I went on keto, which I still love keto, but it wasn't the only answer. So I went on keto. I just started doing all the right things and I started taking care of my lifestyle and just, reducing stress and all the things they tell you to do in order
Mhm.
to get pregnant. And that still wasn't working. I was feeling a lot better. I was healthy.
Yeah.
I was doing all the right things, but it still wasn't working. And, I think at that point we had been trying for another half a year maybe or so. And one night I broke down to Marcus. We were just talking about it and I just started crying. I said, this is too much. My body cannot do this anymore. I think that I was just so emotionally drained from all of the negative pregnancy tests. And I stopped testing at that point. I just was so done with it. I said, if I'm pregnant, I'll just find out, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and he was so understanding and he was so sweet about it. And I was so thankful to have him in that moment because I needed somebody to just sit there with me in it. And we like we had said before, we always knew we wanted to pursue adoption. And so after that moment, it was a very easy decision for us to pursue adoption because it was already on our hearts.
Yeah, that makes it feel like it seems as I say this speaking from the outside looking in, but a totally different heart behind the adoption and like a perfect next step for you guys because you're like, okay, if this is a little bit draining, this is not conducive to like my mental health, and so I'm going to do the next thing that I know that God has
Mhm.
already put on my heart and take that next step. So that was really neat. So we didn't bring this up at the beginning, but guys, Courtney has, you'll have to touch on this, Courtney. Courtney has not one baby, but two babies. So I do want to talk about what the adoption process was like, but tell us kind of how you came about having two babies under a year old.
Yeah, we're even still surprised by it ourselves. um, yeah, it's weird. I remember having these feelings, when we were waiting of twins, and I think God's going to give us twins. I just had this feeling He can't have us wait this long for nothing. And I remember seeing things like double rainbows and and just having this weird thought in my head like this could happen. And no, we don't have twins, but we do have two under. Well, when Jonah was born, it was two under 4 months. So what happened there was after, and we'll go through the whole, adoption journey thing, but, we were working with an agency and after a while we were kind of getting impatient, which that's kind of a normal part of the process as well. We had been with our agency for over a year and we'd seen a lot of cases and we just decided we needed to just kind of like pursue every single avenue we could think of. And we worked really hard to put ourselves out there. So we opened ourselves up to finding a prospective adoptive mother on Instagram and Facebook. And so we set up our Instagram, we set up our Facebook, we started telling our friends and family, hey, we are pursuing adoption. It was a big deal to put that out there into the world because, you don't know how people are going to react, but all of our community, our friends and our family, they were shocked, but they were excited for us and they were hopeful with us. And I'm so thankful that we invited them into that because then we were able to finally have the support that we needed. And still to this day, they're all very supportive. We're so thankful for that. But so what happened was we were with our agency and we had seen maybe I don't know, in person we had met maybe 3 or 4 expectant mothers over these couple of years. um, and then, we had also been receiving messages from expectant mothers and or scammers. You have to be really careful with that as well. But in, let's see, April of last year, we went out of state to just one state over to meet an expectant mother. And she ended up choosing the other family that she met. And that's also always very disappointing. But the next day, I received a nice long message from our son's birth mother, and she was very early on, but she knew she wanted to pursue adoption. She was maybe only 4 weeks along. She maybe had just found out. And she just let us know that she wanted to get to know us over time to see if we were the right family for her. And we were totally out for that. Adoption is definitely the long game.
Yeah.
And so, we didn't have that security yet that this was a for sure thing, but we just, messaged each other every once in a while, just checking in and getting to know each other. And so that was April, I believe, of last year. And then in August, we finally, well, so we matched with Selah and placed with her within the span of 2 days. So she was what you would call a stork drop, where she had already been born. And so that was through our agency. So it was a Wednesday, they had emailed us and said, there's this baby girl, she's in yada yada town, and here's all the details and whatever. And so with adoption, how it works is you are presented with a case, and then from there you can decide, if you want your family to be shown to that birth mother or expectant mother. And so we said yes. Which we said yes the majority of the times. You're seeing
Yes.
a lot of cases with the agent. And then the birth mother had it narrowed down to us and one other family. So we got a text about that. Said, okay, you're being considered. We'll let you know hopefully tomorrow morning or whatever. And then that Thursday morning, so it was 2 days after she was born, we got a call that they had picked us. And so Marcus was at work and I rushed to go find him and tell him, and we got a picture of her and we just packed our bags and we went and we picked up our baby girl. It was fun too, because her sweet birth mother let us name her, and they let us give her our last name as well, which was also really comforting for us. And then we brought her home, we celebrated, we shared the news. And well, so what's serendipitous, as you would say, about all of this is that we had been trying to make plans to meet with our son's birth mother for a couple of weeks, and for various reasons, it just kept getting pushed back. But if we had met with her any sooner than we did, we would not have been able to match with our daughter, because our agency only allows for one match at a time. And so it was just so cool to see that we were like, God, why is this taking so long for us to meet? And then we found out that it's because we needed to match with Selah before we matched with Jonah. And I don't know, it's just so cool.
That is such a
So
God
cool to see
story.
him working.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, after we matched with Selah, we let Anna's birth mother know this happened. This wonderful thing happened to us, but we want you to know that if you still want to place with us, we're here for it. We are still with you in this, but we also respect that if you decide you want another family, we understand fully. But she still wanted to meet us because, she had been talking to us for a while and, getting to know us and all these things. And so we met with our social worker. We brought her into our agency just so that she could get what she needed, the help that she needed. And we met, and she even met Selah, and she was offered to look at other books and she really didn't want to. She just said, I want them. I want Marcus and Courtney. And then we were matched maybe 2 weeks after Selah was born.
That is amazing. So that is crazy that like it's such a long process, but with Selah, it was you literally got a baby in like 2 or 3 days, right?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my,
all at once for sure. Yep.
that is crazy. Because even, with pregnancy, obviously you have like 9 months to prepare your heart and mind. And then even with adoption, you have a lot of time because it's such a long process. And I know there's a lot of time before the 2 to 3 days that she came home, but that is just wild to not have a baby and then 3 days later have a baby like in your arms. That is wild. So
It was crazy.
you kind of touched on this a little bit of like the process of like an agency. So I'm sure like you get with an agency, like kind of create a profile, but tell me about the Instagram and Facebook. So you were saying that was part of your adoption like process. Is that essentially like a portfolio for people to see, or does it help like do moms reach out to you through Instagram? Or is it for people to share? How does the Instagram and Facebook come into play for adoption?
Absolutely. So, like I said, we actually matched through, I believe it was Facebook for my son. So we matched through an agency and we matched through Facebook, all in one crazy quarter of a year. Um, so I actually, when I was trying to brainstorm other ways to make possibly our adoption shorter, our wait shorter, I stumbled upon Lindsay Bruckerman. She was actually on a podcast, the Infant Adoption Guide podcast, and she's known as the Helpful Hap, HAP, on Instagram and Facebook. And I started talking to her about what she does. So she actually adopted two boys just by using social media. Yeah. And so I learned from her. And then when I was kind of working through setting up our pages and just kind of putting things about ourselves out there, she was actually in the process of making an online course for this very thing. So she currently has an online course that she's selling, and I actually got to help her do some beta testing for that, which was
Yeah.
really cool. And she also does profile, what do you call it? Like she'll check out your profile and give you tips and tricks and things. And
Yeah.
so I'm just so thankful for her because we pursued that direction as well. We have our son. And so, yeah, so basically with the Facebook and Instagram pages, we put anything and everything about ourselves on there. It does become like a profile that people can see if they're considering adoption. Turns out a lot of families are actually doing the very same thing. So we would get contacted by expectant mothers here and there. Maybe we weren't the right fit for them. Totally fair. And then also once a month, we would share we call it like a big share, where we just say, hey, friends and family, can you share this post so that we can maybe match with the right birth mother for us?
And when you say match with a birth mother, does that mean like they literally just reach out to you and there's no middleman? Or is it like they go to an agency and say, hey, I found Marcus and Courtney on Instagram. I want you to contact them? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, so a match can be either way. So our match with Selah, with her birth mom, was through our agency. So her birth mom contacted or was in contact with our agency, and then we were presented from there. With Jonah, his birth mom actually found us through one of our big share posts, and she reached out to us.
Mhm.
But a match is when it's decided, I want this family.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So if someone was listening to this and they're thinking like, okay, I have had kind of like this little whisper of adoption in the back of my mind. I think it's something I might need to like pray about and take action
Mm.
on. Would you suggest they do the agency and the Facebook or like the social media route? Like go all in on both, or do you think they should start with one? Like what would just from your experience, which it sounds like you would have to say both because you got a baby from each one, but what would you say is like
Yeah,
the best place for them to start?
sure. I think it varies. I think it depends on what's right for your family.
Hmm.
We never thought we'd be able to afford adoption, and we just went at it anyway. And we trusted that God would provide. And He did. He provided through His people, through donations, through grants. And, I would say the direction of using social media is a more affordable path. But you also, in doing that, need to make sure that you're being legally and ethically safe. And you still need people on your team. So even if we weren't with our agency, we would still have an adoption attorney to make sure that everything is legal and safe and ethical. Yeah, it just kind of depends on your family and what feels like the right direction. But I would honestly start by just talking to people in your life who have adopted. Ask them, what agency did you use? Did you use an agency? How was your experience? What would you do differently? Yeah, I would just start there, do lots of research, and yeah, pray a lot. Ask God for direction, and trust that, the right baby, if it's God's plan, they'll find you. It will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I say all the time, like if God's put a promise on your heart, if he's put something on your heart, like he will fulfill it. And it's just really us having the courage and the strength to wait on his timing and not under like want our own timing and understand our own timing. So that
Absolutely.
is just, how would you say, I didn't even have this question in our notes, but listening to you talk, how would you say because it feels like it's a waiting game either way, right? Like if you're trying to get pregnant and you're waiting and wondering, because like you said, you did all the right things. You got healthy, you got a diagnosis of PCOS, you got healthy, you were feeling better, you're doing all the right things, and you still weren't pregnant. And then you signed up for adoption, but then it's still a long process too, and a waiting game of when somebody picks you and when it lines up. How would you say they differ? They're the same, or how they differ, what like kind of the difference of your feelings in those situations?
Absolutely. They're very similar. At least for me, receiving a no from an expectant mother felt a lot like getting my period or a negative pregnancy test. It's a similar grief. You're doing different things, but your heart is still the same. You want a baby. And when you receive the no or the not yet as your answer, it's still a struggle. So if anyone listening is going to pursue adoption, know that that doesn't change your heart and your desire and your grief. It's just a different path. They're both hard, but to be completely honest, whether you have a baby naturally or through adoption, the heart is worth it when you meet your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am so fascinated by this whole process and this whole thing. Like, I would have never known that you could use like social media to find a birth mom. Like, that is just so neat. Like, such a like 2026 kind of thing. But that is really neat. So I think one of the last questions I had for you was any resources and tips, which it sounds like you mentioned Lindsay. Is that what you said?
Mhm. Yep,
Okay.
yep. The helpful hap, HAP.
Okay. So I will link that in the show notes. And then if you had, what is the one piece of advice, the one, and this could be like a tangible tip, like the adoption attorney or an emotional tip. What is the one tip or piece of advice or word you would leave for the woman that just listened to this episode and has adoption on her heart? What is like, the one thing above all else that you think you would leave her with?
I would leave her with Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. I remember sitting in my chair, sobbing, and thinking, someday I'm going to sit here with my baby and I'm going to look back and I'm going to think God had a plan. And when it's just worth not giving up, because when you do meet your baby, all of that just kind of washes away and you think, oh, this is why God had me wait. We always have
Mhm.
2020 vision where we look back and we think this is why. This is why I was told no 40 times, because I needed Selah and I needed Jonah and he had them planned for me. So I would just say, don't give up. It's worth every tear. It's worth every hardship. And God honestly just brought us closer to him through it. And I think that's what's most important. He's refining you and he's preparing you for what's ahead.
Oh, so good. Such a perfect note to end on. Courtney, thank you so much for being here. If someone wanted to reach out to you and ask you more questions, where can they find you?
Yeah. So they can find us on Facebook or Instagram. Instagram, we're at Marcus and Courtney Adopt. And on Facebook, we're Marcus and Courtney's adoption journey. They can message me if they have any questions about adoption. I will do my best. I'm not the most expert of just because I've adopted twice doesn't mean I know everything, but I'm happy to pray for them and help them along their own journey.
Thank you so much, Courtney. This was wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.